Good day, students. Welcome to our first gym class. Today our topic is how to get big. I'm going to take these off because I can't see anything and I'm already really hot. So, we all want to get big, but we don't all necessarily know how. So there are 3 big points that I'm going to cover today. It's going to be training, which is just, in our case, lifting weights. Then we are going to have eating, because you need to have the right fuel to make the best progress, and that's what we're talking about, right? The most optimal, best progress. And then, even if you're doing all of those, I forgot how to write in capitals. Even if you're doing all of those, if you're not recovering, then you're not going to make any progress. So, we have 3 topics to cover today, so let's get started with our first one, training. So, our first subtopic of training is failure. So pretty much when you're in the gym, you want to be pushing your muscles quite near failure. For hypertrophy, you should be trying to get within, 2 or 3 reps of failure. So that's coined reps in reserve. So you should have between 1 to 3 reps in reserve on most of your sets. And that's specifically for hypertrophy. If this video does well, then I'll do a video on strength training where you might want to leave, a bit more. But for hypertrophy, I like taking a lot of my sets just to failure. Some people claim that does more fatigue and, less optimal. But if you're just in the range of 1 to 3, maybe even 4 reps in reserve, and that last rep, if you were to push to that last 3rd or 4th rep, it would be not able to move, then you're in a good spot, and that's how you grow muscle. A lot of beginners, they go in the gym, just shoulder press away or whatever, and then they do 20 reps with 10 pounds, and then they put them down, and I don't think a lot of people realize that you didn't really do anything. If you don't take your muscles to failure, then they're not going to grow. So that's why failure is really important. So second subtopic is volume and frequency. So volume refers to how many sets you're doing for a certain muscle or, in general, but we're going to talk about certain muscles. And then frequency is how often you're doing those sets. So I have a graph down here. Now a lot of people tend to do what's called a bro split, which is 1 muscle group per day. And the thing is that science has come out, it's told us that muscle starts to just slow down its rate of growth, it stops growing after about 36 hours. So if you're on a bro split, we'll take this blue marker. So this is muscle growth and these are our hours. So if we hit the muscle, let's say starting point is we just hit shoulders and triceps. So starting point, really good and strong, muscle growth, all good. Starts to go down a tiny bit and that's okay, but it just keeps going down, and once you get to that kind of 2 or 3 day mark, it kind of flatlines, and who knows, might even go down depending on who you are. But if you are the red marker, that is someone doing a split like a full body every other day, a push-pull legs, which is 2 times frequency. So, for example, if you were to hit push, so you hit your push workout, all good, goes down a bit, you're doing your pull, your legs, and then you hit push again, goes back up, and you can just imagine it keeps going like that. So that muscle growth, I'm not very good at drawing, can you tell? So that muscle growth continues to stay elevated. A lot of people think that when it goes down, it atrophies, which is the opposite of hypertrophy, meaning it doesn't grow or it shrinks. That's not true, it just stalls. And why would we want our muscles to be stalling when they could be growing? So that's why, for example, if you were to do 6 sets of an exercise in 1 workout, and then leave it for the rest of the week until you 7 days later do another 6 sets, you would be better off actually doing 2 sets on that day. But if you're doing a full body every other day split or an upper-lower split, upper-lower is my personal favorite, I don't like doing full body. But if you were to do an upper-lower, then you're hitting that upper 3 times a week or 2 times a week, and it's just going to keep going back. So if you do those same 6 sets but spread over 3 sessions, then you're limiting the time that your muscle is not growing. Now our third topic is don't be stupid. I think that everyone going into the gym needs to know basic form cues. Not everything has to be perfect, especially when you're pushing those last few reps. Form can break down a bit. But, for example, if you're doing a chest press, you want to have those shoulders pinned back and, pressing forward. You don't want to be caving in or just doing something stupid, right? You just don't want to be stupid. It's really easy to, you can always go on TikTok or YouTube or something. Just look at how to do the form. Yeah. Come on. Now, our fourth and final topic for the training section is enjoy your training. There is a lot of talk in the science-based community nowadays about a certain man, his name starts with a K and ends with an Enan. And he has these few exercises, and they are very good. Scientifically, they are very good. He's, pushed a lot of science-based stuff. But take, for example, one of his exercises, the Keenan flap. So this pretty much is performed by having a cuff around your elbow area or something, and pulling down like this to activate the lats. Now, that trains the lats in pretty much the most optimal way. It can't get much better than that. But you look kind of stupid while doing it. And some people don't want to do that. Some people are stuck in their old ways. I would recommend people to try exercises like that. Try unique exercises. But if you are someone that doesn't enjoy Keenan flaps and you don't want to do them and you just rather do a wide grip lat pull down, just do the wide grip lat pull down. There is correlations. I don't remember who said it. It might have been, I think it was Ryan Jewers. There is correlation between personal enjoyment and motor unit recruitment, which is, or muscle unit recruitment or whatever, which is just how much, how many fibers of the muscle you are getting together to contract and perform the exercise and grow. And if you're just forcing yourself to do the most optimal exercise just because it's exactly that, the most optimal thing, you'd probably just be better off doing like the bro sciencey lift you'd rather be doing, because you'd probably just make more progress on that. So, no, that means you won't be the most optimal, but that's fine. Like, you're already ahead of the game by knowing what you're doing. Now that wraps up our section on training. I don't know if it's too obvious. I don't read scientific literature for fun. I don't know all the terms. I don't know all the words. But I've built a pretty good physique, and I do like to consider myself science-based. I like, doing research before I'll at least hear what someone has to say, whether I understand it completely or not. But those are my takes on training, and we will move on to our next category, which is nutrition. So, this is a topic I know a bit more about, a bit more well-versed in it. So, let's just get right to it. Protein, fats, and carbs. Those are our macronutrients. For protein, you'll have stuff like your chicken, beef, meats, fish, eggs, etc. For fats, you have things like healthy oils, nuts, eggs. And then carbs, you have things like rice, seeds, pasta, etc., flours. So if you want to find out what you should be eating, this is a pretty good guide for that. So for your protein, you should be having 0.7 grams to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if you are 200 pounds, 0.7 of that is 140. So you should be having minimum 140 grams of protein. And on the upper end, 200, 220, etc. Pretty much most benefits of, muscle growth and other benefits of having protein kind of start to slowly flatline once you get past 0.7, but they still have benefits. It's just not as important. Like, if you hit 0.7 grams, you're probably good. So yeah, that's a good target of protein you should be getting, and you can get this from, like I said, any sorts of meats, whey protein. Protein is pretty easy to get if you just shop with it in mind. 20 to 30% of your calories should be fats. So if you were eating, I can't do the math. If you're eating 2,500 calories, you should have 20 to 30% of it in fats. And each gram of fat is 9 calories. So you want to have 20 to 30% of your calories from fats because they're really important for your hormone health. Now this isn't just a male thing. This is a female thing as well. It's just really important to get fats in, and if you don't, your body just won't be able to work properly. I aim for minimum like 50 to 60 grams of fats. Anything else is like kind of unnecessary, but it's still good to have, and if they're coming from healthy sources, then it's never going to be terrible for you. So yeah, that's what kind of amounts of fats you should have to keep your body working healthy and keep doing what it's meant to do. And then the rest of your calories, just fill it with carbs. This is the fun bit. This is where you get to eat your little treats and all that. Now, I kind of follow the rule of whatever fits my macros, so I track all my food, and it's like, if I can fit a chocolate cake in there, I will. But we're going to talk about that a bit later at the Be Nutritious section. So, let's go on to our next topic. Maintenance, bulk, or cut. What should I do? This is a question that is commonly asked, and I'm here to give you the definitive answer. Now, if you are someone that is skinny fat, that's, you have a bit of pudge everywhere, you're not overly fat, but you don't really have that, defined beach body look, you should maintain or bulk. It's kind of up to you. If you're a new lifter, you're gonna be so anabolic in those first, few weeks, months, even a year, that you're just gonna put on muscle. You'll just pack on muscle like nobody's business. So if you just eat at your maintenance, get your protein in, you'll be completely fine. But if you just want to speed it up a bit, you can do a tiny bulk. I only like bulking kind of 300 to 400 calories over max because it minimizes fat gain. But if you want to bulk like crazy, 3,000 calories, go for it. Just, know what you need to do. Now, if you are obese, I would maintain. A lot of people... I would maintain. A lot of people say that you should cut, and I just don't agree. If you cut, you're just gonna end up being skinny fat. And then you're just gonna have to maintain or bulk. Unless you are really self-conscious of just all the extra fat and you really just want to get some off. If you can wait, I would just maintain. You don't need to bulk, but again, you're gonna be so anabolic in that first time that, you're gonna pack on muscle, you'll look great, and then when the cut comes, it'll just be a bit easier, you won't have to cut as low. Then, for all my twinks out there, this is for you. If you are a twink, if you are really skinny, you're 6'3" and you're 100 pounds, you gotta bulk. Now, again, I would do a slow bulk. I would do 200 to 300 calories over. You won't gain a lot of fat. But you probably have a high metabolism. You just need to eat some food. And I don't want to hear any of this, oh, I'm not gaining weight, I'm not gaining muscle. Yeah, you're not eating enough. Eat more. Fill all of your calories with carbs. Just eat more. Get full. Okay, that was obviously a lie. You gotta still eat everything else. But still, just eat more. If you're not growing, just eat more. So, that should cover pretty much everybody. Just be responsible, right? Like, if you want to get more muscle, you should probably bulk. If you're fine where you are and just want to, keep getting muscle, no extra fat at all, just maintain. And if you, want to get shredded, cut. It's pretty simple. Now, macros, micros, and calories. So, we already talked about our macros. Those are our proteins, fats, and carbs. Micronutrients are all the tiny little ones. These are things like iron, potassium, vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin B, all that stuff, your, vitamins and minerals. And I would also like to give a special spotlight to fiber, which is part of, carbs. We really want to aim to get 20 to 30 grams of fiber in. You might start pooping like crazy. If you do, it's not my issue, and hey, you may even enjoy it. You should get that much fiber in, because it's just what you should get. That's healthy, that's how you keep a healthy gut. But for all the other ones, pretty much I get most of my micronutrients from fruit. You get some micronutrients from things like vegetables, you get a lot of iron from various vegetables, but most of your macros are going to come from fruit. So yeah, I also take a micronutrients supplement, I take a multivitamin, and I also take omega-3s, which are in the fat category. A lot of people don't get enough omega-3s, so that's just something important to consider. But anyways, onto the broader topic. So, we know what our macros are, we know what our micros are. You probably know what calories are. It's your energy, right? So, what all of these do, now in the famous words of higher up wellness, let me read it really quick. Calories determine your body weight, macros determine your body composition, and micros determine your performance. I knew all that off the top of my head, I just really wanted to get the direct quote down. So, and yes, I am a valid person to be teaching you about this. So, the amount of calories you eat determine what you will weigh. If you have a BMR, basal metabolic rate, of 2,500 calories, which is pretty average, if you eat 2,000, then you're burning 500 calories as a net whole in your whole day. So that means, you're gonna lose weight, right? Because you're losing 500 calories. And if you eat 3,000 calories, you're gonna gain weight. You're gonna gain that same amount that you would if you were not eating 500. Macros determine your body composition. If you eat only carbs, you're just gonna kind of look big, a bit watery. You just won't, nothing will really be defined. But mix your proteins and fats in there. You're gonna have a nice even body composition. Your muscles will be full, but you won't be overly bloated or anything. That's why all macros are important. That's why I wouldn't recommend cutting out all carbs or all fats or anything. The micros, they determine how you perform. So micros determine how your brain feels, how much energy you have, how you perform in the gym, etc. So that's why micronutrients are really important, and it's good to have like a varied diet with some fruits and all that to get them in. Now the last topic of our nutrition section is be nutritious. Now I put a big fat asterisk next to this because this isn't like a huge priority for a lot of people. For me it is. For me, I do stuff like 150 mils of kefir every day. I try and have 2 kiwis every day. And, I try and have clean whole foods. Some people, they want that, keto bread. It's 60 calories for a slice or whatever. If you look at the ingredients list, it's all like oils and artificial sweeteners and all that. I personally like to avoid those where I can, and I pretty much can. I mostly eat whole foods. But that's not a priority for some people. Sometimes people just care about what they're consuming from the macro standpoint. I wouldn't do that. I think if you're going to go all in on something, you need to go all in. But hey, sometimes, whether you're a bodybuilder on prep and you need to, you really are craving that bread, but you can't have it, maybe you need that keto bread and maybe it'll be fine for you. But if you're just a regular person, I would just try and be more nutritious than not nutritious. I kind of do like an 80-20 or 85-15 rule. 80 to 85% of the time, I'm all healthy, I'm all good, all locked in on whole foods. And 20 to 15% of the time, it's those little snacks, little things like that. Thing is, I'm very fortunate to be in a family where we're all very good bakers and cooks, so my treats are still usually homemade things made of whole foods. But yeah, pretty much try and be as nutritious as you can. If not, it's not the end of the world. It's just something I value more than a lot of people do, but I would recommend that you do that as well if you're just getting into the gym. Now for our final full topic, it is recovery. Now recovery is really important. You can be doing everything perfect in the world. If you're not recovering, you're not growing. It's that important. So, I'm gonna start off with frequency again. So, like I said earlier, if you hammer your chest, 20 sets of bench press, the next day, you'll probably be pretty damn sore. That's not really what you want. A lot of people still believe that soreness is a good indicator of muscle growth. That's kind of in the past, it's not really. You can still be growing without being sore. And why would you choose to be sore than, not be sore? It is just best to split up your training pretty evenly and focus on getting those, if you're doing 6 sets, for example, like I said, getting that split between either 2 or 3 sessions. It does make a big difference. I've noticed more progression with my muscles and my strength, just changing from a bro split to what I do currently, which is a push-pull legs upper lower, which is 2 times frequency. So I've just noticed more benefits on that than you would if you were, doing a bro split 1 time a week and just really hammering it out. You don't need to be getting sore every day. You'd just be better off doing a different kind of amount of volume and frequency if you are still doing that. Now, sleep. Sleep is hugely important, and a lot of people neglect this, especially nowadays. What's the first and last thing you do in the morning and at night? You go on your phone. It is really important to be sleeping enough. That is where your hormones, do a lot of the work. It's where your muscles do a lot of the work. If you're not sleeping, if you're not recovering as a whole, you're not growing. So the amount of sleep you should be getting is 7 to 9 hours. This is really important. You can get by on 7. Sweet spot's kind of 8. You can do 9. If you have time to do 9, then great, all power to you. I don't. I aim for 8. But that's how much sleep you should be getting. If you can, try and limit screens before going to bed and when you get up in the morning. I get that that's difficult for some people, some people work there. That's fine. If you can limit it, try to. Again, I have 2 kiwis before bed, which is meant to be very good for natural melatonin production to get to bed faster and have a better night's sleep. Just try and sleep 7 to 9 hours. You're making your progress there if you're not sleeping. Some of these people, they double scoop their pre-workout before going at 8 p.m. Caffeine has a half-life of like 6 hours. Caffeine's all in your body all through the night. They fall asleep at 3 a.m. and get up at 6 a.m. because they can't sleep. Just fix your sleep. It's really that simple. Rest days. Now, if I could be in the gym every single day, believe me, I would. I love going to the gym, and I hate my rest days. Today's my rest day. That's why I'm recording this video. I hate rest days. But you need them. They're important. Having a rest day doesn't mean you're lazy, and I had to convince myself of this for quite a while. It just means, that's when you're recovering. You need to give your muscles a break. Some people can get by with 1 rest day a week, which is great. I personally do 2. I don't think I would do too well with 1. You can get by with 3 to 4. I mean, if you're doing full body every other day for 3 days, you're still getting 3 times a week frequency. But the more you're resting, honestly, the better. That's why a lot of these people nowadays, they coin full body every other day as the best split, because you get 3 to 4 rest days. You have time to recover, time to grow. But you should at least be taking 1 rest day a week. You need to let your body kind of develop, progress, right? So that's why rest days are really important to take. And last section, cardio. Now, I haven't done dedicated cardio for a while. One thing I have been doing is after every meal, I go on a 10-minute walk. And it helps you lose weight faster if that's your goal. Keeps your expenditure high if that's also your goal, you want to eat more. But most of all, I feel like it just kind of gets my blood moving all through my body. It reduces soreness. I don't know all the science about this. I don't know all the science about anything. But I believe that doing cardio is useful. Nothing high intensity. If I were to do cardio in the gym, I would only be doing incline treadmill anyways. But even just walking, I believe cardio really helps. Again, it just gets everything moving, working together. So I believe that you should be doing cardio, especially on your rest days. It helps you kind of keep progressing, right? So yeah, cardio is important for me, and I would recommend that you do it and kind of consider it part of your recovery routine. Now the final section, results. So we have 2 graphs here, your newbie graph and your everybody graph. So on our newbie graph, this is for people who want to see that progress really fast. Now, assuming you stay consistent with the gym, this is about how your results will look. Now remember, results vary for every different person. Some people are going to make the same progress every year for 5 years straight, and it'll be insane. But a lot of people just aren't like that. So this is what you should kind of expect as a natural lifter. and what you should expect to see with your progress. Now, assuming everything you're doing is consistent, especially if you're eating right, you'll see progress really fast. But assuming everything you're doing is consistent, so we start here, right? No time in the gym, just got there. Gonna start going. Gonna see a good amount of progress right at that 2-month mark. Then it's gonna keep going. Good 4 months, 6 months, half a year. It's gonna taper a tiny bit, just a tiny bit. That is a very good trend. You were right here. It's only 10 months later. You've made a ton of progress. You will see a lot of your gains in the first 10 to 12, 14 months. And even, honestly, a lot of people see it in that first kind of 6 months. And you will start to see very good, very noticeable progress within the first 2 months. The gym is one of those few things that, unlike a lot of skills, it is hugely rewarding very quickly. You can get in the gym, be as unoptimal as you want. I mean, this is assuming you're following the other stuff. If you're sleeping and you're eating, your progress is gonna skyrocket. But you will see a lot of progress really fast. So that's one of the great things about the gym. One of the not so great things about the gym is that you don't keep progressing at that same rate forever. Now, this is for kind of everybody. Here's our progress. These are years. So in your first year, you're gonna make a lot of progress. Okay, maybe that was a bit too much. You're gonna make still a lot of progress. That's half the damn graph. A lot of progress there. In your second year, you're gonna make a lot of progress again. You're still gonna make a lot of progress. Maybe a bit less than the first year, but you're still progressing, you're still building muscle. And again, it depends for every person. Some people keep making those same gains for 5 years, and they're really lucky, but not all of us. But the general trend, 2 years, starts to slow down around the 3-year mark, 4-year, 5-year. It's getting a bit stagnant. Now, if you look at the whole trend, right? You have your first year here, your second year here. That's a lot of progress, First year, all the other ones, right? You're still making double that progress, still making great progress, and you can still be progressing. I know people progressing 15 years in the gym. It's not impossible, but progress will be much slower. For your first year or 2 or even 3, you can be adding 5 pounds to every exercise, every session, every 2 sessions. After that, it gets a bit tough, especially for people training for their strength. And when you get to that 5-year mark, it's gonna be tough putting on 5 pounds of your bench, 5 pounds of your squat. And it's gonna be tough putting on as much muscle. In your first year, people can put on 30 pounds of muscle. Then, you get to year 10, you're scraping by to get that 1 pound of muscle. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but the best thing is, by that point, you're in your full routine, you probably love the gym, it's really fun, and you just live for those tiny little wins. And again, I'm making this sound very pessimistic. You're still making great progress. You'll have to look back on it, you'll see how big you are, how big of a difference it makes, but after a while, the muscle growth will slow down, and it's going to be more important. You're really juicing your sleep, you're getting everything you can out of the calories that you eat, and the more you do that, the more you will progress. But there does come a time where it starts to slow down, unfortunately. But that won't be for a while. You still have a lot of time to make all this progress, right? So, get after it. And now, you did it. You're big. That is it. This was the one video you needed. Thank you very much for watching. I'm not the most qualified person to be talking about this, but it is something I'm hugely passionate about. For the last 3.5 years, I have dedicated most of my life to nutrition, fitness, personal growth, and I've made a pretty damn good physique out of it, and I also bench 315 pounds, so suck my... I hope you enjoyed the video. I was aiming for 10 to 15 minutes. I think it is probably closer to the 20 to 25 minute range, but hopefully it was entertaining, hopefully you learned some new stuff. And a lot of good creators out there are making videos going more in-depth on these topics, so you can always search those up, find those out. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. look at my channel for videos like vlogs, workouts, etc. I do a lot of stuff. And yeah, if this video does well, you will be seeing me again in a very similar outfit, talking about something different now. So, have a good day. Thank you very much for watching, and class dismissed.